I am living proof of the Hegelian dialectic. Um, I thought about this earlier today, and I think this is why I like the theory so much, just because it's so, like, on point about fucking everything. But, yeah, I was brushing my teeth and I just started thinking about, I'm like my mom in the sense that, you know, she is nice and caring and uh, thoughtful about people, right? But when push comes to shove, she does not act on things. And then on the flip side of that, I'm like my dad, where, he gets shit done, but it's never for the right purpose, right? It's never for like a greater goal or something that's, I don't want to say righteous, but it's never anything really good. It's always like, I don't want to say self-inflicted, but for his own goals, right? And growing up, I got that back and forth where, like, my mom was the thesis and my dad was the antithesis, excuse me. And I would just keep watching them kind of go back and forth, and hash their problems out and everything else. And, I've said this before, growing up in a chaotic household, you know what that means, right? So, they're just getting mad at each other all the time and I don't want to say yelling at each other, but just getting, down and dirty, if you want to call it that. And that constant back and forth with the pendulum, right? Where it's, this side's winning and this side's not, and, going back and forth. And then eventually it rests at the synthesis. And that can even be said about me being their child, right? If you consider one of them the thesis and the other antithesis, and then I'm their son, the synthesis. So, both physically and mentally, it's really quite funny and fascinating to see that. And, we even see that with politics, where it's just back and forth, right? Where this just happened with Thomas Massie, which I'll make that into another video. But yeah, it's like, you know, you have this back and forth between essentially an Israeli plant and then versus the American people, and it goes back and forth, and then one of them takes the victory, but it's never just one team coming out on top. It's now we have the synthesis. The synthesis is the American people recognizing that voting will just not work anymore. So it's not like, one team comes out unscathed. It's no, one team comes out on top and the other team gets destroyed, and then both teams can synthesize from that and take and give ideas to each other based upon what happened. So, I don't know, it was just something I thought that was fascinating. Just seeing that in my own life, So, yeah.